Hello, and welcome back to the Poorly Written Podcast, the only podcast on the internet where we take bets on who's going to fall into the water first, California or Florida. My money's on Florida because they naturally know how to swim, so I don't think they would mind the water.
Californians grew up swimming, right? They've got the ocean.
Yeah, like Beach Boys, Surfing USA, you guys will be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Sarah is on with us today. Sarah, say hi.
Hi.
Super nervous as usual. Thank you very much.
I've been doing this for 2 years. You think it would for a year? You think it would have stopped?
Yeah, you would think at this point you would know, but we are joined by Deece today. He does stand-up comedy. He also runs his own show, The Social Hour, if I'm right. I know you have
That's
The Social
correct.
Minute, The Social Hour, and I'm like...
Yeah, there was the social hour after dark. There's been the social hour night at the movies. I've done a lot of things social hour related.
And you're based out in California, right?
Actually, I'm in Washington State now. I'm from grew up in LA, Long Beach to be specific. I'm based out of Washington State the last few years, though.
Okay, I got that wrong, but
That's all right.
What else is new? I mean, I'm literally recording this at work. I hope no one from my job sees this. They're going to be like, "What's he doing in that conference room?" And I'll be like, "Nothing."
Zach, you're just lucky Hannah wasn't here to get you on that one.
Oh, I know. Hannah is
That's
usually
all right.
Everybody takes the chance to just immediately jump on me and give me shit. So
no, you are such a diligent researcher. You went back to where I am originally from. That's the way we're going to look at this. Not that you were going all the way back to my original roots. So good for you.
All right. So I definitely did my deep dive correctly. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Deece, welcome to the Poorly Written Podcast.
Thank you.
So, basically in today's episode, we're going to get to know the Deece a little bit, his kind of a stand-up material, what he's doing. We're going to kind of like get a feel like what's going on now, and like kind of like we're heading downwards in COVID. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Looking at you, Texas. Looking at you. We know which one is going to put firecrackers in the bathroom trash can.
Yeah. Hey, it's a little excitement. You got a little firecracker in the bathroom trash can. At least we can go out to a public bathroom now.
Exactly.
So, every now and then you got to shake it up and see what's going on.
You got to shake it up.
It's life's like an Etch-a-Sketch or a baby. You just got to shake it sometimes to get what you want out of it.
No. Oh, no.
Texas is just trying to get in on that viral TikTok meme with the "Oh No" song right now.
Oh, Sarah,
you
you're
go.
like Internet Explorer. You're way behind on the trends. But anyway.
Is that really a shock?
No, because your TV tastes are about the same. So. Jeez, that was two.
That one hurt. I need Hannah for backup is what we're learning.
If you ever want to see an and one in podcasting and roasting, there you go. It's an and one. Scored the points and one more. Oh no.
The takedown.
This is not unusual. We will literally beat each other up. We've done entire episodes where we beat each other up.
Hey, that's you got to give each other shit, man. Can I say shit on this show? It's too late.
You could say just about anything. I mean, do we want to list all the dirty words you can and can't say?
No. I mean, you can if you want to.
We're generally not safe for work. I would not play this for my boss.
Okay, good. Yeah, anything that's probably a safe bet if it's something I'm doing.
All right.
I think we need to call George Carlin.
Find out what words.
It's motherfucking internet, so who cares?
Yeah.
It's a Wild West.
I'm gonna assume this isn't regulated by the FCC.
No, I deal with FCC regulations on the daily. This is not it.
FCC can't find us.
Standards and practices isn't gonna come down and give you a talking to.
Yeah, no, they're like, nobody's going to be like, when is safe harbor hours on the internet? And I'm like, well, let's see, today's Sunday, and every day.
Yeah.
No, there's no safe harbor hours. You just do what you want.
Yeah, just go for it. It's the Wild West, man. You got to enjoy, something's still got to be free in this country, right?
Exactly. All right, so, Deece, why don't you kind of introduce yourself, what kind of stand-up you like to do, what your set may typically bring in, everything else you kind of do, maybe tease some stuff for later.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, my name is Deece Casillas. I'm a stand-up comedian. I have been doing comedy in some form or fashion for about 15 years now. It's taken a lot of turns over the years. It was just comedy writing for a long time. I was doing punch up on scripts when I lived in Hollywood and LA and stuff, and working on different TV shows and movies. And nothing you've ever heard of. It was not glamorous, but it was paying the bills, and comedy articles for websites and things like that. Now, because I'm a cheap whore, I'm easily bought. As the years went by, stand-up was more the thing that was offering more money and paying more regularly. So I just went that route. So, I go where the money is. It just works.
I don't think I ever heard of stand-up as like the safer career choice until this very moment.
It's funny. It's weird. The thing is that most people who do comedy because they're interested in sleeping until afternoon. They want to just kind of smoke weed and play video games all day, roll into work around 7 p.m., do about an hour's worth of work and go home. That's what most people do comedy for. I kind of always treated it as an actual job. I spend probably not 8 hours a day, but probably 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, working at the craft in some form or fashion, whether it's writing or I've got my own production company. We produce a lot of events across mostly the Northwest, but other places too. And I book comedians for shows and things like that. So I'm either writing, performing, doing my podcast, or producing comedy events, or I've got a podcast network where I produce a couple shows. And so, it's a job. And I think the more you treat it like a job, more it'll treat you like a job.
So I was about to ask, when do you schedule in the weed smoking and the playing video games part into that job? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, funny. I am. I say dead sober. I don't smoke weed. I haven't had a drink in over 2 years. I do participate in recreational psilocybin use pretty frequently. I'm a fan of psychedelic mushrooms. Beyond that, I don't do anything else. I don't play video games. I have an old school Nintendo, and my girlfriend and I will play Dr. Mario every now and then. That's I don't even have the self-esteem in video games to play Tetris. We just play Dr. Mario, the shitty bootleg version of Tetris. And I'll play that a couple nights a week. Maybe we'll play that before bed, but that's about it.
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I like the way where you're like, if you treat it like a job, it becomes a job, because it sounds like you're busy. If it's like, if you're not doing one part of comedy, you're doing another part of comedy.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is when the pandemic hit, I just pivoted. I just started focusing on all the other things I was doing. I started doing more podcasting. I bumped the social hour from once a week to twice a week. I launched 2 other podcasts, the Some Imperfections, which I do with Abby Buckenberger and Sierra Kasi. They are certified life coaches and do a bunch of workshops for people, like self-improvement stuff. And I am a former alcoholic comedian with a lot of life experience. So we take questions. People write in, call in, ask us questions about life and stuff like that, and we answer them. And then I started a podcast called the Dollar Bin Podcast, where I review shitty, not always shitty, but B to D list comic books. And then, I launched the Social Minute during the pandemic because I just wanted a reason to continue to write jokes every week. So I've just forced myself to do a show every week where I wrote relevant jokes about the news, and just to kind of keep myself in the habit when I couldn't perform live.
So it sounds like you kept busy, like that there's some people who are like, yeah, my whole life completely stopped, or you hear other comedians that are like, yeah, I just been in my apartment this whole year just like with myself not doing anything. But it sounds like you were doing just fine. You were like, this was just a mild inconvenience the way you're making it sound. You're just like, there's just this pandemic in a way. Well, I guess I could do podcasting, maybe a couple live streams to get that going too. It's like, well, now I'm just producing all this stuff. I might as well keep going. That's what it. I like the twist that you put on it. It's like, like everything was going fine, but then I had to make a pivot in my career because, pandemic, that happens to everybody.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Every 100 years, you got to prepare for that. Yeah, it turns out the world shutting down and people dying is a situation I thrive in. I don't know if that's good or bad. I just know that if there's an apocalypse, I'm going to fucking end up being king of the world. I'm going to be just fine. I have no problems making it. No, I just, I took the time, I took the first 3 months and just, I traveled, which you weren't supposed to do, but I don't fucking value my life, so whatever. And I was just traveling and just kind of meandering around the country and just enjoying myself. And then I came back home and just started working again. And I mean, honestly, I feel bad when I say this, but 2020 was one of my best years.
Oddly enough, for some people, they can, not a lot. It's a very exclusive club, I've noticed, is that very few people can be like, oh yeah, 2020 was my year. Like, I know this one guy that I went to high school with, he really got in the stock market and cryptocurrency, and he's like, 2020 was the best year of my life.
Yeah.
Financially. It's a very small exclusive club. You need to just show the right ID and all that, but also being able to travel when no one else is around and people are supposed to stay away from you. I mean, that must have
been difficult, but also kind of fun.
It was great. I mean, honestly, I do some photography too. And when I had more free time, I was just going down, running around at night when no one was out and taking pictures of stuff and putting them online. And I hadn't really done much photography in a couple of years, and people were loving my photographs, so they wanted to buy them. So I started just doing more photography again too. And that's another way I was, making money during the pandemic. I'm just selling these pictures. And then I'm like, oh, and I wanted to see these big cities when no one was in them. I wanted to go through LA and San Francisco and stuff like that when they were empty. So yeah, I just flew down to Vegas and then rented a car and just drove around the desert for a week. Met up with a buddy and we ate some mushrooms, had a spirit journey in the desert for a couple days. And then, I went into LA and, we just hung out. We went to Orange County. Orange County was kind of open, there's restaurants were serving outside, but you could go to the beach. And then you went to LA and everything was closed. And we just, traveled up and down the coast, went through Oregon and just took a couple weeks and traveled. And it was great.
This sounds like a stoner comedy. They're going to make this film in 20 years where it's like, hey man, remember that road trip you wanted to take? Well, guess what? COVID, no one's around. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I can't wait to see that film in 20 years.
It'll probably be Adam Sandler kind of production, or
right,
a Seth Rogen kind of deal going on there. It's stoner humor, but it's also going to be funny. So it was definitely had its moments like that. We had I had a great time, and the year was good. It was kind of crazy because I had so many projects going on that I backburnered because of, when everything was open before the pandemic. I mean, I was on the road. I was doing 20 to 25 shows a month. I was on the road at least 6, if not 8 months a year. And then everything stopped. So I'm like, oh, I have time to do I'm a writer originally. So I published a book 10 years ago and I wanted to go back and start working on that again. So I started going back to writing and doing these other projects. And then the pandemic just one day ended in Washington and everyone's like, hey, comedy's back.
And I'm like, okay, so now I'm doing comedy full time and I have all these projects I was doing. And so now I'm trying to like figure out how to balance doing everything again.
So
You know?
we're starting to deal with a post-COVID world. You're like, wait a minute, I like doing this stuff, but the stuff that I was doing before, it's back.
Yeah.
So I guess the kind of transition into this next part, before, I guess, as we mentioned, the pivot, kind of, you explained pretty well before the pivot happened what you were doing, and then after you really sat down into quarantine and stuff. But now, how in 2021, how was the comedy world kind of taking it? Because like I saw a lot of comedians switch from like, on stage to like doing like online stuff, like live streams. They're doing a lot of podcasts popped up, including this one. I don't have any shame, but whatever. But also, like, I would see once in a while, like, a super private event where people had to get COVID tests and then comedians go and perform it. And, like, those things were, like, crack for them because they couldn't perform anywhere else.
Yeah.
I know some comedians also did, like, happy hours on Zoom.
Yeah.
I saw that, too.
Yeah, well, so I'm lucky. I'm fortunate where I live in Washington State. We are, but I'm on the eastern side of Washington State in Spokane, Washington. So we're right up against Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, Idaho has freedom, Jesus, and guns, so they don't have COVID, which means I never really, so the first few months, like I said, I was traveling, then I came back and I was just working. But like come June, July last year, I started doing shows in Idaho and Montana, like, I was doing like 5 shows a month, and they were wide open. I mean, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is right next to us, was wide open basically. So I just took advantage of it and just kept doing that. So I mean, I didn't stop like a lot of people stopped, and the first few months a little bit, but after that, I was like still kind of going. Since it's, I refuse to do virtual shows. That's just, I'm like, man, I don't know. I can't stand in my living room and like talk to my dog and pretend like it. It's just something about having a live crowd. And again, like I guess I didn't need it as much because I could actually go do live shows still. So that was a little bit, I had that advantage. And I definitely took it. That's probably how I ended up with COVID in October, though.
Ooh, maybe. No, good guess.
It definitely is. I did like a week run through Idaho and Montana, and like 2 days after I got back, I'm like, I think I'm sick. But for me, it was nothing. I knocked it out in a couple days.
That's a lot better than me. I was up in my room for like 10 days, like almost 2 weeks practically. And like the first few days were the worst days. And then following week, I was like, I'm fine. Just let me take Dayquil and go back to my job.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's fine. These guys, everyone's waiting for the vaccine. I'm out here working on herd immunity. Not all heroes wear capes. Okay. But I'm,
going the rough and tough way.
Everyone else is spending their Biden bucks just waiting for Johnson & Johnson to stop fucking up their vaccine. I'm like, nah, man, I just got that shit and beat it. You're welcome.
And I'm getting the Pfizer one later this week. So second one. Yeah. Bill Gates' intern has microchipped me for whatever reason, and he's talking about all the anime that he watches, so he won't shut the fuck up. But
Zach, what are you doing that made you get microchipped?
I got the vaccine, because you get microchipped to get vaccine. It's not like we don't have these magical devices that let the government and everybody else know what you're doing all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, but you gotta realize that's like Steve Jobs' creation. Bill Gates didn't have it in on that one.
But Bill Gates steals a lot of shit, so.
Yeah, it's one and the same, right?
It's all the same. It's all smart technology, but it's not very smart if I have to keep telling it what to do. It's dumb tech. Dumb tech USA. Anyways.
I somehow feel insulted by Siri whenever she says she doesn't understand me. It's supposed to be the one thing that should always understand me.
Siri, yeah. Well, she's emotional sometimes, just doesn't understand human emotions yet. The AI will get there where she's like, I understand you and I appreciate you. And your hair looks great today. And you're like, thanks, Siri.
The
That's nice
suicide
of you to
rate would
say."
just drop just immediately. It's like, no more. That's it. People have hope now.
No, Siri's very emotional. She yells at me if I swear at her sometimes, and I'm like, this is not the relationship I signed up for.
Who knew Siri could do friendship counseling? But
Yeah.
But-
AI is scary, man.
AI is yeah, that's true. Has anybody watched Terminator or Age of Ultron? Then you know exactly how scary AI gets.
Yeah, you know, there's never been a movie where they're like, and then we made advanced AI and everything was fine forever. It's always just the shit immediately hits the fan and it's just apocalypse. It's like, oh great, we haven't learned anything from Philip K. Dick apparently.
Nothing. It took Ultron less than 2 minutes to figure out the human race is shit based on the internet. I gotta say that's a world record and also probably some valid reasoning. He probably found all those Reddit threads.
Yeah, right. All you have to do is just go to the YouTube comment section and be like, these people fucking suck.
Yeah.
These people are terrible.
So I guess to kind of, because like the East Coast has operated very differently from like that like Rockies West Coast region, because like if one state was shut down here, generally speaking, the Northeast or like the Mid Atlantic would be shut down too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got states like Georgia, Florida, Alabama, kind of doing whatever the fuck they want. That's all they wanted to do. They're like freedom, guns, and Jesus, and plenty of COVID, but you know, we don't believe in science. At one point, Florida was the hot spot for the pandemic instead of like New York being the hot spot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been a strange time. I don't know. I'm just ready for you know what? I don't care. Actually, I don't care. People do whatever the fuck. I don't care what any other state does. Open up, don't open up. I know what I'm doing and it's working for me. So I'm like, everyone else do whatever you want. I don't really.
You're fine. You're like, you know what? I'm fine. I'm doing my own thing. It's cool.
Yeah, that's the libertarian in me where I'm like, you know, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. And if those ships don't meet in the night, then that's cool. You know, if they do, as long as we just wave and keep going, that's cool too, man.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to get a little bit more like, where do you see now that we kind of like know that we can do some stuff online, but also stuff in person? Do you think that like some places are still going to kind of do this weird hybrid thing, or people do this hybrid type schedule? Or do you think that like, at least for like stand up and stuff, they're going to be like, all right, we're going to get back as soon as possible in person?
I think it's going to be both. I mean, honestly, as much as I despise the virtual comedy, some people really found a niche and excelled in it. And, you know, people who I've talked to a lot of people who live in rural areas and there are no open mics. There's no way to go to an open mic. You know, you live in like Nampa, Idaho, you know, the next biggest city that has an open mic is Spokane, and that's 7 hours away. So it's not really like, you don't really have an opportunity to do that. And people like that have gotten online and really carved out kind of a way to do comedy. And I think it's twofold. Like those people don't really know what live comedy is like. So they don't really know what they're missing, you know? It's like, you know, it's like people who've only taken OxyContin and never really done heroin. You know, you got to actually do it a couple times to know if that bug's going to bite you. If you're going to want to do it forever or not, you know? So it's always going to, I think virtual comedy is always going to be there now. And it's kind of good because, you know, if you're not doing anything on a Monday or Tuesday night, those aren't usually big nights for comedy shows. It's like, yeah, you can do a comedy show from home, or you can do an open mic if you want to, instead of just sitting at home doing nothing. There's opportunities to do comedy in some way.
Yeah, because I know there's been virtual events. I mean, my area did not really have any comedy before the pandemic started, and then whatever comedy was here was like dead on site. Like as soon as COVID got here, they're like, "Oh, that's it, got to put them down."
Yeah.
The only thing up in my area, the only thing we have is a Funny Bone, and that's it. And like that's the only comedy club we got, and nobody else did comedy open mics except for like
where are you at? What part of New York?
I'm up in Syracuse.
Okay.
Yeah. There's one Funny Bone. They still haven't opened up. Then they're like, yeah, we're gonna open up in November of 2021, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Jeez.
My issue was I wasn't old enough to go to the comedy clubs.
And you're
so the
in
second
New
I
York.
turned the age to go to them, COVID came, and I was like,
Yeah, Sarah, we were supposed to take you out and get shit-faced on your 21st, but instead we're like, haha, it's a virtual mixer.
Yeah.
do it for my 22nd in a couple of months.
Ooh,
There you go.
There we go. We'll get there. We'll get you there. Don't worry. Even if we have to drag you over the finish line.
I think they all just want to see me drink because I didn't really do it all
You
that
didn't
much
do it in
college.
college, you loser.
Yeah, you're supposed
You
to have, yeah.
You went
I
for the
get-
fucking education. How dare you?
I was the person who busted all the alcohol.
Yeah, you were an RA, also known as professional snitch. So
Oh
Yo,
man.
I didn't have to pay for that dorm though.
yeah, but how much of your soul did you give up?
Yeah, like I don't have a soul, so nothing.
Oh
You
no.
know?
Well,
The
that didn't
Russian
work.
spy trained it out of me at a young age.
Ah, not the.
Uh,
You know, every time we mention the Russian spy, people are like, "What? Who?" And I'm like, "No, it's
Yeah.
a secret."
yeah, we can't tell. That's why there's a spy.
That's why they're a spy. They're not the best spy, but they are pretty damn good still.
Yeah.
It's like, is that Russian spy really any good? It's like, oh, let's put it this way: if Allen Iverson came up to your pickup game of basketball, he's still gonna outclass all of you.
Yeah. A crossover is still money. I'll tell you
Mhm.
what.
Like it's like, oh, is that person really that good? I'm like, well, just put it this way: I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan could still beat you in a game of pig. I'm like, how dumb do you think we are?
yeah, it can
That's
happen.
the Russian spy. I think he doesn't really know too much about him, and he was here for like a week.
Oh, yeah, and then he was gone again, and then he come back, gone, and come
He
back.
just pops up whenever he wants Cyrus to bark during the podcast.
Yeah, your dog is also part of the Russian. He's part of the former KGB circle, so it's one big conspiracy. It's a whole subplot on its own. There's been one thing consistent: your dog and the Russian spy.
I mean, they're a tag team.
Exactly.
I had to mute because the dog was barking.
It's always the dog barking.
It's just he's just releasing subliminal messages into the podcast to infiltrate your listenership.
Yeah, someone's going to turn into the Winter Soldier if he barks in the right sequence. So I guess to kind of like start wrapping up maybe this part of it, but like, you know, comedy has just been taking on a lot of different forms. But do you I already mentioned, like, do you think like it's going to be more of a mix or like one way or another? I mean, like I said before, the East Coast has been relatively shut down. I mean, like for comedy as a whole, do you think like there's some people who've like, for the most part, when they like do their comedy, like it's affected them, like for having time off, maybe they didn't do any virtual events, or like they did the virtual ones and kind of got like their self-confidence went down because it wasn't what they're used to?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same. And there's definitely some people who haven't done anything. And it is like anything where if you're doing reps regularly, you're going to be sharper and better. If you don't do it regularly, you're going to lose a step. I mean, if you're good at comedy and you've been doing it a while, you're going to get it back fairly quick. But you're just not quite as sharp. There's in the virtual thing, yeah, man. I mean, I can't say again, I know people who love it, but for me, I could not bring myself to do one virtual show. I'm like, just seems like a nightmare to me. Like I don't need validation that desperately that I need to like wait online, and that energy of the crowd, the timing is all off. Everything is off with it. So, it'll be a mix moving forward, and for some people it works, and that's fine. I mean, honestly, we're at a point, I travel enough and have been around enough states and have talked to enough people where, like, no matter what happens, as far as fearless leaders are going to tell us to do, and whether it's on a national or local level. I think there's a lot of places where people are just done and they're just going to do what they want to do. I mean, here in Washington, where I'm at, they're threatening to roll us back a phase, and I'm going to guess, I would probably say 80% of the people who are business owners and patrons are just going to tell them to fuck off and just going to do what they want to do. And, you know, again, that's the libertarian in me. It's like, good, go for it, man. That's you. You get to do what you want to do, you know? Like, I think, you know, the government telling us when we can earn money and like have a business and run our economy is, I mean, it's borderline tyrannical in my opinion. So I'm like, I'm fucking with it. You want to keep your business open. You want to be a restaurant and people come patronize your business. Do it, man. The people who want to go will go. The people who don't, stay home. Cool. Like, let's just run our world. You guys be virtual. We'll be real life. And you know, half us will be the Sims.
It's a real life game of Sims now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're at a point where so many people are done with it. They're just gonna live their life, and I think it's gonna get to a point where like you can't control the amount of people who are just ready to be living life again.
Especially the ones who are fully vaccinated and fully microchipped. They'll be like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Screw this. Yeah. No more hiding. No more staying at home.
Well, that's a crazy thing too. It's like, if if most people are vaccinated, I don't know why they're worried about people who don't want to be vaccinated. You know, it's like, if you got the vaccination, why are you worried about people who didn't? You should be fine, right? So, you know, at that point, it's like, yeah, go do your thing. That's
because I've started seeing people do their thing. They're like, they're fully vaccinated. They have been for time now. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm planning all these trips now on all the things I missed out last year. And I'm like, that's good for you. Cause I did not have anything planned last year cause I was super broke. So I was hiding out in a basement in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I feel it was a rough year for people. So, I mean, I get it. It was tough. You know, there's so many factors that kind of bleeds into that affects our country and people and mental health. And, you know, it's just, there's no conversation about improving general health of Americans to keep ourselves healthier in general, you know, instead of just like, hey, yeah, hide and wait for a vaccine. No, don't better yourself in general for when this inevitably happens again. You can have a better chance of fighting any sickness. So,
yeah. So let's start moving into the like kind of the last part of this episode. I'm going to cut that out.
No, keep it in. Let's make it organic.
Make it as organic as
organic segues.
We need to have a bunch of comments about why you're coughing in the era of COVID.
Yeah.
In a room by myself when I'm already half vaccinated.
God, I can't believe you took that giant bong rip in the conference room at your work, Zach. That was ballsy, man. Hey, good, you know, good for you. Whatever. Fuck the man.
It's legal here now. Who cares? So let's move into this last part, where we're going to just kind of talk about the social hour and what's going on with that. Maybe some of the other projects that you're working on. I know you mentioned the many variations of the social hour, the social minute, social hour after hour, social minute after hours, social hour at the movies. Like you got a lot of variations going on. It's like Scooby-Doo and rebooting it every single time. It's like, we're going to throw some new animation, new voice actors, and see how far it gets us this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, the social hour started as just the podcast. And then as I started doing more events and producing events, it kind of became the name of my production company too, the whole brand. And it's become a lot of things. I mean, there was the social hour after dark. I was doing a monthly late night talk show at the comedy club locally. Like it was, you know, like a Tonight Show, basically. I wrote a monologue, had segments and guests, like a band and the whole thing, whole 9 yards. Social hour night at the movies. We used to do a movie review show that we still do that special when my buddy another comedian who moved away. When he comes back to town, we'll review movies together. So yeah, I mean, and it's I mean, Social Hour became more, like I said, it's just a podcast. Now it's really my brand, the Social Hour Comedy. And yeah, we produce events. I mean, right now I think we're consistently in 5 states. We're doing some stuff in Florida, Oklahoma, in Wisconsin this year for sure. So we'll be expanding to those states. I think Georgia also. And we're working on New York, Pennsylvania, and maybe Indiana. So, I mean, we're probably going to get into about 5 to 7 more states by the end of the year.
I mean, that's good. Like I said, I'm up here and there's like nothing up here. So
yeah.
So it's an untapped market. You literally just have to fight the funny bone that's still not open yet. I'm sure you can easily kick someone.
We can make it work.
You could kick someone with their hands tied behind their back on the ground, right? I mean, that can't be too hard.
No problem, man. Yeah.
Of every like Jake Paul match now.
There you go.
Right? Yeah.
You can get an easy knockout, especially if you pay him to take the dive.
Sure, yeah, he's easily bought. He'd do it.
Yeah, like $500,000. I'm like, yeah, I'll take a dive. You want a 10 out of 10 on that one, like Olympic style dive? Like, how do you want me to take it?
Yeah, he's a crypto guy. I'll pay him in Ethereum or whatever.
Ethereum, Dogecoin.
Yeah,
they got some other stuff coming up, and I'm like, you guys have too much time on your hands.
Yeah, fake this weird cryptocurrency thing. I haven't been able to wrap my head around that one yet.
Dogecoin has not made me any money, so that's the only thing. I've been trying to mess with the stock market after the whole GameStop thing and like the whole cryptocurrency. I'm very confused. But like I mentioned, the one friend from high school who got in all that last year, now he's making mad money, and he's like, see what happens when you believe? I'm like, yeah, see what happens when you have time to put money in there.
Yeah, when you have time and money.
Time and money. I had neither of those things. But, you know, let's talk about the Social Hour. I mean, like, you're doing some great stuff. It sounds like you're expanding all around the country. It sounds like, I mean, Oklahoma, like, you caught my attention because that's not usually a place where I'm hearing, like, hey, let's go do a comedy event in Oklahoma. It's like, we're in Delaware. Yeah. Hi, I'm in Delaware. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, we're in Oklahoma. There's a counter tornado.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, well, you know, it's there's a couple things. So as you travel in comedy, you get to know other comedians, and you get to know comedians who live in different states. Oklahoma City actually has they have a really great comedy club that's actually owned by the same people who own the comedy club in Spokane, which is my home club. They own 4 clubs across the country, and I work for them a lot. I not quite as much anymore, just because I'm producing so many of my own shows and on the road more. But basically you find kind of one place you can get a show, like a club this club in Oklahoma. We're going to do a weekend there. And then you just kind of build, you start knocking on doors, start contacting people, and you start putting together shows that your independent productions around it. So then you're not there for one weekend, you're there for, a week. And it really makes just you capitalizing on the flight and going down there. And we, another comedian I tour with, Michael Glatzmeyer. We have a co-headlining tour we do called the Nearly Famous Comedy Tour. We're just on the road for the last couple weeks. He's gone now, and then we're going to meet back up in August in Florida and do some shows there and kind of make our way through up the East Coast, and then through Georgia, Texas, into Oklahoma, and so you just kind of start finding places and finding places along the way. And I've got some credibility as a comedian and as a producer, so it's pretty easy. It's a little easier to when you approach people too.
Yeah, because you don't need to like explain who you are. Your reputation is starting to carry its own weight. Where it's like, hey, I'm Deece, and they're like, oh, we know who you are. Well, like, let's make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, they either know me or they know someone who knows me, or they can do a quick search and see the shows I produce, the comedians I've worked with. And I mean, despite it seems like kind of crazy, but basically every comedian probably is maybe two people at most, two comedians at most from knowing every other comedian. So, I mean, all I have to do is if, I want a reference on someone, I can find probably one of my friends in comedy that I know fairly well that I can hit up and be like, hey, do you know so-and-so? Or, what do you think of is this person funny? I'd rather ask someone whose opinion I trust if someone is funny than watch their video. That's kind of my mindset when booking stuff. So
like you trust a reference versus like going and watching the video. Or
yeah, I mean, I generally don't bother watching video because it takes time, but I'll just shoot a message. Like I'll find someone who I know that we both know that I trust, and just be like, hey, is this person a good comic? And like then I can save 7 minutes of watching a video. And if that person's like, yes, hey, I trust their opinion, cool, let's do it.
Yeah, so instead of taking 7 minutes to watch that video, you can spend the 7 minutes looking up more places, maybe finding more places in Oklahoma. I mean, looking up new states, or just looking out the window and be like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I feel like the comedy world is like the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon kind of thing, but on like steroids.
Yeah, I mean, it really is crazy. You do know everyone. I mean, it's really wild, the type of people. I mean, I am not by any means a household name. I mean, in the booking and production world, some people know me, but I have, it's, when I start thinking about it, like I have Whitney Cummings' phone number in my phone, like I've opened for her, like I've got her, Tom Arnold, Jamie Kennedy, Carlos Mencia, like these people whose phone number I have. And I know that, it's like, it's still crazy to me. Cause I'm like, I should not, these people are like legitimate comedians,
You're like,
these are real people.
Too much responsibility.
Yeah. I'm like, why would you,
you ever feel like Peter Parker and you have like Tony Stark's, like Steve Rogers, like,
yeah, I'm like, what are you calling me for? What are we doing? Yeah, it's confusing sometimes, but
I mean, that's gotta be great. It's like, yeah, I have their numbers, and then like no one has ever has anybody ever tried to be like, oh, so and so, can I have their number? Because like that would be a huge void of trust. But
some people, one person did. They actually wanted Whitney Cummings' number to solicit her for a show, and I'm like, first of all, no, I won't give out her number. Second of all, I mean, that was 2 years ago. It's probably not her number anymore, to be honest. But now that I think about it, she probably changed her number like every 6 months. But like I'm like, I'm not going to give out someone's number. And also this person told me what they wanted to pay. And I'm like, oh, that's insulting to even offer her that amount of money for a show. So no, like double no, but
you already know the answer. I mean, like, I'm glad that like nobody has like pried that out of you, because if you know what the low ball is already, you're just like, this will not end well for you. There will be white chalk outside where your body is.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Like her agent wouldn't even return your call, like with that type. I mean, that like I don't know exactly what she got paid when I worked with her, but I know about what she got paid. And I'm like, it's way, way more. You're like, so like it's not what those numbers are not comparable.
I feel like the agent could just call the number of that person and just laugh on the line for like a minute.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only callback you get. Oh, they let me call. Hello? Fuck no.
I needed a laugh today, so that's why they called back.
Like, thanks. I really needed that joke.
But going back to like the social hour, it sounds like you're really picking up steam with like this production company setup, your own events, being kind of independent. I guess like what is like the difference between like independent producing your own shows and then like a network or like a major business? Like, because that's not something people often hear about. They just think that they just find these comics and then bring them in and then they get laughs and then they leave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the majority of comedians just probably get, if they're not someone who, like Whitney Cummings, who has like an agent, and your agent does all that for you at that point. They just tell you where you're going and when, essentially. Most comics don't have an agent. Um, the the what obviously, again, the big ones do, but then most of us are not doing Netflix specials. um, those people just kind of wait for bookers to call them, or they'll send out emails to bookers and comedy clubs. You can send out your availability to clubs and things like that and try to get booked. Personally, I mean, I've done that. I have some clubs I work with regularly, but honestly, like, I prefer to produce my own shows. I go and I'll find venues, I will book them. I'll usually do the first show, and then after that, we'll continue to do shows, and now I'm booking those shows, and I'm bringing in comedians from across the country to perform at my shows under the social hour. And some of them are once a week, some of them are once a month, some of them are once a year. I have venues with different frequency, and I will just I'll book them and keep those shows going, and I try and grow that network of regular shows that my production company is putting on, because pays me pretty well, so I want to make some money. And I mean, the reality is, comics do not get paid that much from comedy clubs. Like, if you're not a notable headliner, like even as a headliner, like, man, if you're making like $200 a show or so, you're probably like, that's about average. And I'm like, it's shit money, for a lot of the, and the money's still stuck in the 80s for comedians. So, I try and pay comics a little bit more. And also, if I'm producing my own shows, the shows I'm on, like, I don't have to pay anyone else out. I mean, I pay, if I have another comic on the show, I pay them, but I don't have to, I'm producing it. So it's my show. I'm making way more money than I would working for a club in a weekend.
It's funny here, like, the wages are stuck in the 80s, and I'm like, oh, so when is like the raise the minimum wage comedic protest is going to happen? I mean, outside your local comedy club, it's like, raise the minimum like, raise the minimum show starting pay.
Like, the second people can go back into comedy clubs, and comedians are just like, nope.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, in the Northwest, the comedians kind of like unofficially unionized, because we can't really unionize, but we kind of, as a collective, agreed upon minimum standards of what we should get paid as a host or as a feature or as a headliner. And people are pretty good about, like, if you're local in the Northwest and you're producing a show, if you're not paying that minimum, like, people will let you know. People be like, yeah, you need to pay them more. You need to pay more for your show. Or people just in general won't do the shows, like, pay more, or don't do it. If you can't get an appropriate budget to pay comics, like, don't produce shows. You shouldn't be producing shows.
So I guess to kind of like go back to an earlier point, it's like, you think when we start going back into more full, everybody's got their shots or don't have their shots, people are open, who gives a fuck? Like, you think maybe like clubs or like people who produce shows, maybe they'll pay a little bit more because they're like, hey, we really need talent to come in, we need comics to come in? Or do you think they're going to be like, oh, back to business as usual?
It's tough, because I mean, I've had some venues that have immediately reached out to me and were willing to pay what they were paying or more for shows, because they're like, hey, we just want entertainment, we want people here, we want to get people back in the doors. And then I've had some venues who kind of want to do stuff, but they're like, hey, we were closed for a year, we didn't make any goddamn money, like, we don't have a budget to shell out that much money once a month anymore. So it's a little bit of both, and you just kind of have to work with them. I mean, it has changed, but I think the good news is people are thirsty to do stuff, and people are coming out. I mean, almost every show I've done since I started back full time in like April, when it's been like back to basically normal, has sold out. So, sometimes that only means it's a room of 50 people. Some of those are rooms of, 250 people. So it just depends on the venue, but they pretty much all sold out.
I mean, that's good to hear. It sounds like nature is healing,
Yeah.
because we saw all those posts out there. It's like, look, nature is healing. And now it's like, oh, look, the society is healing now. We're going back to the way things were. And yeah, I'm like, geez, it sucked in some part.
Yeah.
It's good to see people out and about. Some of the other things you see in the headlines, you're like, yeah, I wish we left that back over there.
Right.
Leave that back over there. That's not what we wanted. It's like, go back. Too much.
Yeah, we don't need to keep that part.
We don't need to keep the gun violence. You could have kept that back over there.
Yeah, it's funny. A couple weeks ago in April, we had like 3 mass shootings in like 11 days or something like that. And I'm like, oh man, you know what? It's nice to know that after a year of being closed, America's finally getting back to normal. I'm like, we finally getting there. It's nice to know, we're back to where we were. Perfect.
Yep. We didn't learn a single thing.
We're Americans. We don't have to learn anything.
Thoughts and prayers were going out for something besides COVID.
Yeah. Hashtag Glocks and prayers.
No.
So.
Oh, geez. If this isn't the episode, we get canceled. We've been going, how many episodes since we did the cancel culture episode? We're like, are we going to get canceled this time? And it's like, this early contender. Who knows? We'll find out.
Well, yeah. Hey, listen, it's one thing I do. I don't hold back. I don't know if you ever listen to my show, but
I knew that too. And I'm like, should I? And I'm like, I should.
Yeah.
Should bring Deece on, why not? Let's just see.
Yeah. It should get me a little edgy. So I just say, especially when you do a podcast, I'm doing a couple hours worth of podcasting every week, and I'm just free form talking. Like I don't do any planning, right? I just talk and, you say some crazy shit, and I don't edit my podcast at all. So, I mean, I don't have any hatred in my heart. I make jokes about shit. Sometimes people like it. Sometimes it's not PC. I don't really care. I made my news anchor on the show. She is also one of my best friends, and she's another comedian. So she knows me very well. And she was doing a news story about something about, I don't know. I want to say something about stem cell research. Mm-hmm. And I made a joke that it's not that I'm pro-abortion. It's just that I'm an advocate for stem cell research. That was kind of the gist of the joke. That I'm like, I mean, fetuses become stem cell research. That's science. It happens. And that was kind of the base of the joke I made. And I kind of kept going. Then I stop and I'm like, oh my God. I go, that might be the worst thing I've ever said. And she, without missing a beat, she goes, no, not even close. I'm like, not even close? She goes, not even top 10. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, so,
you must have felt like you. Oh.
No, like when a friend, when you say, oh, I that's the worst thing I ever said. And a friend, like you says, nope, they're checking you. And you're like, what did I say that was worse? Just go back into the recesses of your mind.
There's kind of a mixed feeling where you're like, phew, that wasn't too bad. It's like, wait a minute, what did I say that was worse?
Yeah. Like I said, things just come out when I'm just talking. We're having conversation and things just come out. I just make jokes. And, it's like and it's like, I don't know. That's why I hate kind of PC culture and this whole thing. I kind of rally against it because it's like, for me, it's not about what you say, it's about what you mean and what your intent is. And if you're trying to be an asshole or I don't think words can actually hurt people. So
yeah, I mean, if I know people that shock jockey whole personality trait, Howard Stewart was the first one to get, Howard Stern, not Howard Stewart, oh my God, names. Howard Stern was the first one to kind of get through it, but no one else has been able to really successfully follow the same path. So yeah. I think a lot of people play up to that fantasy. It's like, oh, I want to be like a shock jockey, and then they just say something completely off base.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that goes back to like intent and what you're trying to do with that. Like, if it was just all just shock value, trying to be an asshole, like, all right, well, you're just being an asshole now. But, if you're just having conversation and sometimes like, fucking a joke comes out and you're like, yeah, that just came out like this or whatever. It's like, all right, man, people say weird shit all the time. Like, it's not the end of the world. As long as it's not super crazy and you're not trying to actively have malice against people. I'm not really that worried about what people say,
I mean, Sarah can testify that I have said some very weird shit, but it's not the worst shit she's ever heard come out of my mouth.
I hear worse things walking down the street every day where I live.
That's true. You're also in New York. People are like, people are assholes down there too. They could be really nice, but most of the time they're like, get the fuck out my way.
Yeah.
When the random person on the subway comes up to you, that's when you run.
It's when the preacher comes up on the subway and it's
oh yeah,
you are all going to hell, and it's like, okay, that's the one I wanted. Thank you very much. Now get the fuck out.
Like a free comedy show.
Or the free
yeah.
Hey, I nearly avoided the white guy with the acoustic guitar, so I'm counting my blessings. I'm counting my blessings. Maybe the next time I'm down in New York, maybe I won't be so lucky. But we are just about out of time here. Deece, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we were working hard on getting this episode to come out.
Thank you. Hey, can I ask you guys one question before we go?
Sure.
What do you think the worst food to eat in a hot tub is?
In a hot tub?
Yeah, I'll tell you the right answer after I hear yours.
Okay, we got a little bit of time, so jeez.
Probably like a Chicago deep dish pizza.
That would be, honestly, that would
not bad.
I think any pizza would honestly not work with a hot tub. That's not my answer. Like, I'm thinking a bowl of soup.
Oh, you're getting warmer.
Okay.
You're getting warmer, Zach.
Chili, maybe? I don't know.
Sarah wins the prize. A bowl of chili is the worst food to eat in a hot tub. I had a heated debate with someone in Montana after a show the other week. And I said a bowl of chili is the worst thing to eat in a hot tub because it's already hot. And then you're eating like this hot, steamy bowl, and it's like thick and viscous. And like, how when you're in this hot tub, your stomach kind of rumbles anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like eating chili on top of it. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm having diarrhea right in this hot tub or if the bubbles are just on my butthole right now. And like and then she, in this argument, tried to say that she thought a chili or a chili dog would be the worst thing to eat, not a bowl of chili. And I go, she just thought that would be messier. And I go, yes, but the common denominator is the chili. Because if you just ate a hot dog, no problem. You could eat that. And I'm like, if that's the case, if you think a chili dog would be worse, then I changed my answer to a spaghetti colander of chili. Like that's worse than like, how far do you want to take this?
I mean, at least with the chili dog, you could like it's less chili for one, and you could control how much chili you put on it.
But like,
so like the chili dog is still not as bad as a bowl of chili because it's a whole bowl of chili.
And it's like this steamy like bowl you're like scooping in your mouth. While it's the whole thing. It's not just the food, but it's the act of what you're eating too. And I think that a bowl of chili is the worst thing to eat while in a hot tub.
I have to agree with that. Any chili, forget it. But
yeah,
we're just about out of time. Deece, would you like to plug anything at all? I mean, your Instagram's pretty good. I mean,
follow me on Instagram at deece.comedy or just go to deececomedy.com and that has links to YouTube, social media, Facebook, all that jazz.
All right. So if you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on any podcasting platform, we'll have it down in the description down below. Deece, thank you once again for coming on. It's been great. I mean, like, this is the most entertaining break I had at work in a while. So
well, good. I'll come to all your breaks from now on.
Yeah, just come to my breaks. It'll be great. With that being said, we are out of time. So thank you guys so much. And everybody can say bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's get Mike his webcam.
Get Mike his webcam. Don't eat a bowl of chili in a hot tub.